this is the time that I really like is tools, and more tools, right? Because we don't sell these.
Tools, pads, and chemicals. Yeah, we don't sell hands.
Yeah, we don't sell hands. We sell gloves, we don't sell hands. But, I mean, what is this? I don't remember
Well,
this
blow the
at
dust
all.
off. This is the first generation Griot's Garage in-house DA polisher.
That's correct.
From
2006.
2006. And it just goes to show Griot's has been coming out with innovative orbital polishers for a long time.
So that became that.
Well,
Over time.
Over time, right? You know, just a lot of development, a lot of changes, design features. So if you look at this tool.
Oh, here, actually, let me get over here so I can zoom them in.
I mean, if you look at this tool here, I'll hold that up.
All right. Go
From
ahead.
2006, and how it evolved from there into this G9. I think there's leaps and bounds of just internal and external design features on this tool here.
And I'd much rather use the latest iteration than the original version. They both still work. We could plug this in and buff out this car behind us.
Yeah, and actually still a lifetime warranty on that tool, which is kind of cool, you know?
You know, I have with me here Rod Kraft, the Eastern Regional Sales Manager for Griot's. And one of the things I like to do when we make a video is I like to sometimes just help people learn how to say the name. So many people I hear talk about this brand, they say Griot's. Okay,
G-Riot, Greats, we've heard it all.
It's Griot's.
The T is silent.
Griot's, okay? Am I correct?
That's correct.
Okay,
Yep.
so please, just, out of respect for the brand, learn to say the name correctly. So I see that so often with so many different brands out there. People don't know how to say it or spell it.
That's true.
Well, Rod, you know what? This is really cool. You've got so much stuff here, and I'm counting, 5 different tools. And what we want to do is you've got a new tool, but let's kind of walk through the evolution of the tools if you want to.
Well, you know, Mike, it's kind of funny. Over time, we've had the ability to show each tool individually, but I thought it'd be a great idea to kind of lay them all out so that we have each one here and we can talk about each one. We don't need to spend a ton of time on each individual tool, but I think we can show how we evolved from where this tool was back in 2006 to where this tool was that we launched in 2019. So I'm super stoked about how we've kind of made this evolutionary change in our design, both internally and externally.
Yeah. Okay, well, where do you want to start? Want to start with the G8 or the G9?
No, we'll start with the G9.
Okay.
So if you look at the G9, and then you kind of look at all these other tools that you've probably seen by now, this G9 is kind of the first leap from more of an in-house design. We've completely changed the whole design of this tool, both internally and externally. So we've got, good Lord, I mean, we've got double shot rubber in just about every touch point on this tool, which is really nice.
Which it just makes it nice to grip and hold. And usually when you're buffing out a car, it's longer than a few minutes.
That's exactly
right. You're holding
right.
a tool for a while. So you want something that's comfortable.
Right, if you're gonna be holding a tool for a while, you want it to be comfortable, you want it to feel good in your hand, you wanna have all these different touch points that no matter where you touch it, it feels good, you have a good grip and it's good stability while you're holding it. So we've got a detachable cord, which is designed for all of our tools right now. So you can have one cord that you can use for each tool. So one cord stays plugged in, and you're just gonna swap out your tools and not change out your cords every time.
And for a guy like me, I have over 20 of these things for my detailing classes. And one of the things that I did for my last class is, I don't think the camera can quite catch it, but I was able to line up and stack up all my G8s and my G9s and put the cords somewhere else, and they just store and fit on the table better.
I know they do it better in my bag whenever I have to go out on a detail. It's just curl the cord up and take one cord, 2 polishers, and go.
Yeah,
right?
well, I have almost 300 tools in this garage for our big 3-day classes, and that is a lot of cords to manage.
And what's nice about that is, every tool's gonna come with its own cord, so if you're using one cord primarily for all your tools, think about all those extra cords you haven't even used yet that are great backup cords.
Great idea.
It's gonna come in handy.
Yep.
So we talk about the G9. There's so many great features on here, from the vents on the side, which actually pulls air in through our vented counterweight that's inside here. It's hard to tell with the backing plate on here. The nice feature about that is we know that heat can be a detriment to a lot of your backing plates, your pads and things
Yes.
like that, all the way down to the Velcro where the attach points are. So we've got what's called a Velcro brand micro loop, which is really nice. You have great pad engagement to your backing plate, and that's true with all of our backing plates on all the tools here. That counterweight that's got the fan built into it helps to draw air in through the vents, or the gills on the side we call it, that feeds air through the vented backing plate down to the backing material on the pad. It can actually reduce the temperature of the surface of the paint that you're working on by an average of about 10%, which is pretty nice.
Yep.
And even with a DA, it's really not generating a ton of heat
No.
per se like a rotary, but having your paint a little bit cooler extends pad life, product life, more work time with your product as well.
And just to kind of touch on that, there's this myth out there in the detailing world that you need heat to break down the abrasives. I've heard that for so long, and that is so wrong. It's pressure over time that does that. Heat is an unwanted byproduct. In fact, it's never good to heat up a clear coat. In one of my how-to books, I say your upper levels for heat are like the 160 to 180 degree range. You don't want to get any hotter than that. And one of the things I show people is, as you're buffing out a car, you should always be able to put your hand down on the paint and still hold a conversation. If you go to put your hand down on a paint where you've been buffing and you instantly jerk your hand away, that paint's too hot. It's time to stop buffing in that area.
Exactly right. So we'll just move on to the ambidextrous speed control, which is nice. You have nice, precise detent stopping points for each speed setting on here. So once you lock that in, but it's a nice clicking point. It's not going to wander on you while you're working on the car if you actually didn't just rub your finger up against it.
And that is a nice feature, because a lot of times when you're buffing, you're kind of twisting the polish around, and if your thumb or your hand bumps that, you could go from speed 6 to speed 3 and not even know it. And a lot of tools don't have that. It's like a free floating dial, and having that detent so it goes click, click, it kind of locks it into place. It's just something you don't got to think about as you continue buffing around the car.
Right. And we've got some screen sections on the side here that actually are removable, so you can blow those out if you do get a little bit of dust or debris
screwdriver, just pop it out.
Just pop it out nice and gentle, it pops right back in. We've got our brush ports on the back that are nice and accessible. All of our tools are going to come with an extra set of brushes, and I can be honest with you, I think my first G9 that I got when we first launched it, I still have never replaced my brushes, but we've got an extra set there in case you guys need to pop a new set in there.
It's insurance.
It is insurance, that's right. And if you do run out of brushes, we've got them in stock. We can send them out to you. I think you guys can also send them out some brushes too.
Before we move on, I actually would really like to show all to the depth that you guys went to create your backing plate. And I think I got the wrench.
Yeah, that's for our rotary here.
Yeah.
We use the smaller wrench.
But just let's show everybody how well thought out this tool is.
Yeah, so if you look at the counterweight in here, what's really unique, and this is patent pending as well, this counterweight has a fan that's built in around it. So that actually draws air in through these gills or vents on the side, forces air down to the backing plate, which has got holes and vents in it, and of course, therefore, it's going to force that into the pad itself. So all that's drawing air in, keeping the pad, the backing plate, and even the surface of the temperature surface that you're working on cooler. So really innovative design.
Very innovative from Griot. And one of the things I always like about your catalogs, right? I got one right here, is so often you look at this, and here's Richard, and he's out here, he's holding the tool, he's working on a car. And so when you see these innovative designs, the touch points and how you grip the tool, it isn't coming from some desk jockey, it's coming from the man himself who's out there using the tool, and that's where he gets this inspiration of how to redesign a tool. And of course your team is very hands-on. I know most of the guys at Griot, they are detailers in their background and detailers in heart.
That's true. I mean, from Jeff to even Nick himself and Sam, who's our director of training. We've got a great group of people behind the scenes, down to our chemists as well, that are really behind not just our tools, but our liquids, our pads, the whole system as a whole.
And it adds value. It adds value, so that someone buys something, they're getting something that has already been well thought out.
That's exactly right. So, one thing I'll just finish up on the G9, tons of features on here that we could just spend an hour talking about, is normally this is going to come with a 6-inch backing plate. What's nice is you can actually go between the 6 and a 5. So you've got 2 different backing plate sizes, and then we're going to jump from the G9 over to the G8, if you're okay with that.
Oh, yeah, no, I love the G8.
So if you notice, there's some similarities in the design of these two tools, much smaller in regards to the footprint of that one. We wanted to make sure that when we came out with a different tool, maybe a smaller backing plate size, this is an 8mm throw, we want to make sure that when you're switching from a G9 to the G8, that you've got something that feels somewhat similar and familiar. So there's a lot of feeling that's similar in the handle. One difference is we've got a trigger here that's pivotable, if that's a good word, that you can pivot from the back to the front. So let's say I want to hold the tool mid-body. I can use my pinky to control that if I want, or I can hold it back here and control it with my index finger, okay, which is nice. Of course, same detachable cord port on there. Speed setting, the ambidextrous speed control. Both actually, which I didn't mention, have a lockout trigger on the left side of the tool. So I can lock that out. I like to say it's kind of a cruise control setting so that when I'm working on the car, I don't have to sit there and feel this strain with my fingers all the time.
Yeah,
I can just
why
lock
tire
it out.
your hands out if you don't need to?
That's something I try to teach everybody that takes one of my classes is, I walk around, I watch people, and the whole time, if they're new to machine polishing, they're sitting there holding it. And the function of the lock trigger is to lock it in so you don't have to do that. Now you're more focused at the task at hand, which is very important when you're working on the car. Look at the paint, not the handle.
That's exactly right. So the G8 is a 700 watt tool, which is really amazing. And I didn't even mention that the G9 is 1,000 watt. That is a huge leap over the GG6 that we had prior to this one. So the GG6 was 850 watt, this being 1,000, this is 700. You've got all the power you could ever want, which delivers a little bit more torque. You've got good constant speed control. So this tool, you're never gonna have to go up to past maybe 4.5 or 5 on either of these tools, okay?
I don't think I ever get past 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I always like to share this. When I did my original review on the G9 when they launched it, one of the things I commented on was this was the first tool I used where I didn't feel I had to run it at speed 6 to maintain pad rotation. It had so much power.
Right.
And it was impressive. It was just impressive right out of the box how much power the thing had.
I know, it's just nonstop. I mean, I don't think I've ever been able to install this tool, and I like to demo this in a sense that I can show people that even if you get into a situation where you've got to maybe press down, go after that defect, slow your arm speed down a little bit, even if you turn this to 5 or 4.5, no matter how hard you press, it's almost impossible to stall that tool, okay? One thing I wanted to mention about that G8 is it will come with 2 backing plates. It'll come with a 3-inch and a 2-inch. So you've got the ability to turn this into kind of what I would call maybe a scalpel, so that you can get into those really tight areas and do some precise, polishing and defect removal.
And it's handy. It enables you to match the pad size to the panel.
Exactly.
And otherwise, because it's always good practice to not buff on an edge or a raised body line.
Right.
So in order to do that, you need to shrink the size of your pad down.
That's
so
true.
that's just real
That's
handy.
true. Right, lots of options there. We'll move on from the G8, and we're gonna go over to the G15 and the G21. We can just grab either one of those, which is gonna be fine. And so if you notice, this looks a little similar to the G9.
I'm seeing a theme going on.
Yeah,
here.
you kind of get a little thing going on, this commonality there. So what's kind of cool is this is basically the same footprint as the G9 with the exception of the midsection here in the middle. This is a little bit longer, and that's to accommodate the 1100 watt motor that we put into this machine here. So you just got all kinds of power with this tool.
Let's just
I
show
guarantee
that.
you, even if we had 1,000 watts, this thing would just be perfect, but we wanted to go a little bit extra just so you have a little bit more power, because that long throw, you tend to work the tool a little bit harder, right?
It's true.
Otherwise, the same features as the G9. We've got all the double shot rubber, we've got the brush ports, we've got the vents on the side with our screens. We've got more of a constant speed control here, which is nice, so I can feather the trigger a little bit. We've got a lockout feature on the side as well, okay? Very precise. So we were talking about the backing plate on the 15 and 21. One thing that we couldn't do to the 15 and 21 like we did on the 9, where we actually had a fan built into the counterweight, because of the long throw on both of these tools, is we actually took the concept of building a fan incorporating it into the backing plate itself, which is really unique.
Don't let the problem work you, work the problem.
Exactly. So right now, if you look, these slots allow air to pull in. There's fanned or ribbed sections inside this, and this is made from German urethane material. These things are virtually indestructible. And it allows the air to come in through the vents that are coming in through the side vents and gills or ports on the side here that we want to call it.
Okay.
All right. Pulls it in through the backing plate, these slots, or vents here, into the fan design that's inside here, into the internal portion of this backing plate, through the vents or holes on the backing plate, of course, to the pad surface of the backing material of the pad.
Then to
and
the
down,
paint.
Down to the paint, exactly.
Smart.
Really neat.
Yeah.
No, it's not smart, it's cool.
While I have this off, though, I want to talk a little bit about something that's kind of cool that we designed into the 15 and 21. Mike, if you don't mind, grab those 3 bolts sitting right there.
Okay.
So one thing that can be a challenge when you're working with a long throw, or actually any orbital in general, is you've got a lot of different dynamics going on. So you've got the weight of the tool, you've got the pad, you've got different densities of the pad, thicknesses, sizes, right? Orbit strokes of the machine. And so what happens is as soon as you start putting product on there and then continually loading up that pad, the weight of that pad changes dramatically, right?
And the balance.
And the balance, of course. And so we all know that, using a long stroke, that tool has a little bit more, not necessarily vibration per se, but you can feel that tool a little bit more.
It's more sensitive to changes from the pad.
That's a great way to put it. And so what we wanted to do is think about, well, how can we kind of blueprint that tool a little bit more?
Like engine blueprinting.
Exactly. So if you think about building a really high performance motor, you're going to have that motor blueprinted so that all the internals are perfectly balanced, your rods are drilled out. We could talk for hours about that. I'm a car guy. So what we wanted to do was take the overall design of the tool and all the internals that are balanced and nice and neat and precision made, and we can actually fine tune by adding these weight optimization fasteners is what we call them. I can take 1, 2, or 3. Normally it's going to come with the silver one attached, and then the black or the bronze or the copper one, whatever you might call that, is I can change those different fasteners based on the pad and then the weight of the pad that I'm working with. It could be the microfiber pads, which tend to be a little bit heavier than a foam pad, and even our new knitted wool pads. Once you start loading those up with product, you're going to start throwing the weight off a little bit. And if you kind of feel that vibration changing a little bit, or just the feel of the tool gets a little bit more, I don't know what the word challenging might be to control, you can actually play with the weight a little bit by changing out your fasteners.
So this is perfect for the people that just I want to dial this thing to the perfect. For me, they can do that with that.
And that would be more true if you're going to be working on cars, doing a lot of excessive paint correction all day long, and you're working with your pads and you're really driving that tool to the extreme, measures. You want to be able to fine tune that tool a little bit more.
And I'm going to take a guess at this, being an old rotary school guy, but with the rotary, the attachment is right down the center of the spindle. So there is no orbital action. But with the long stroke, if you watch how I move this, see how the spindle... Let me get in
close there real quick.
See how the spindle is actually orbiting.
Right.
So that is where changing the weight can have an effect. It wouldn't if it was just staying in the same place. It wouldn't matter. But as soon as you start putting the orbital action to that, weight is always an issue.
That's true. That's true. So, even though this is, CNC,
oh yeah,
counterweight, this is nice and balanced and precision, we want to take it a step further and just offer some more fine-tuning adjustments, if you want to call it that.
Well, most of the people I know in the detailing world are what we call OCD, so
no,
we're catering to you.
Not at all. Not at all. So the G15 and the G21, phenomenal tools. I'm so excited about that. So you can really kind of say this is our second generation of long throws. And I'm happy where we've come with this design and the tool. I love it. One thing I want to talk about.
The shroud's gone.
The shroud's gone, yeah. So that shroud is no longer there. We've kind of omitted the shroud. A lot of people, with any tool that has a shroud, you're going to tend to have a little bit of restriction and orbit or rotation, right?
Yes.
And with the previous shroud, the first generation tool, we wanted to make sure that the grease, that you got a little tube of grease that came with that machine, right?
Yep.
And you were supposed to lube the little lip up on the shroud itself to kind of maintain that on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Some people did it, some people didn't. And so I think in reality, by just taking that shroud off, it just allows that tool to free spin a little bit better. You've got all the power necessary. You'll never get this to stall on you.
You removed the restrictor plate.
You could say that, right.
And that's kind of unique, because I will tell you, even though it seems like a simple thing to put that white grease or lithium grease on there, if it's not there and it starts to become dry, then the drag was actually affected.
It was significant.
It was,
That's
yeah.
true.
So one of the things I always did before one of my classes, that I'd take that tube and I'd walk around and I'd lube everything all up, just so my students would have a great experience.
Right.
But now I know how to do that.
That's
Oh,
true.
you're such a good guy, Mike.
The last thing I'm going to talk about on this backing plate is, you notice there's a little kind of a white little smooth lip around the edge of this backing plate. That's on both the 15 and the 21. That is completely free of any Velcro, which is nice, because when I'm taking my pads off, one big mistake people tend to make on a pad or a backing plate, I should say, that's got the Velcro all the way out to the edge, is we're always grabbing that. Okay, I'll pop that on here. And so you've got to kind of dig your thumb in there or your finger and kind of pry it open to kind of get that pad started before you pull it off. That little lip that's free of Velcro, it allows me to have a little free spot right there that I can just break that lip open, grab it, and pull it right off.
Once you get it started, then it's easy.
Right, so you're
Yeah.
not really delaminating that pad on the backing material on the pad itself.
You know, can you zoom in on that, Yancy? What he's talking about
I
is
was already in there, but I
this
can
little
zoom back in.
Okay, well, I want to add something to that. That little space there where there's no Velcro. So here's something I always say in the car detailing world: the little things are the big things. That's a little thing, but it makes a huge difference if you're out there detailing, changing pads day in, day out.
That's true.
I know what would make Mike happy. If that little white lip had a little black mark on it, then he wouldn't have to go through with his Sharpies and put on all his backing plate.
Well, I noticed Mike already had a
Yeah,
black mark
that's what
on
I
there.
saw.
Right,
And I was like, okay,
right.
here we go.
Yep, really cool. So there you have the 15. We got the 21 sitting over there.
Basically
Obviously,
the same thing, right?
15 millimeter, 21 millimeter. You've got just both of those tools. You could just get out of any situation as far as paint defect removal, things like that. One thing I will say on the 21, you can put the 5-inch backing plate onto the 21, which is nice. There's no real need to put the 21 or the 6-inch backing plate onto the 15, but you can swap the 15 over to the 21 backing plate wise. Okay. And then we'll move on
To the new one.
from that. One thing I was going to talk about real quick was on the 15 and 21, those will come with a 16 gauge cord, which is nice. So you've got that thicker wires to drive that 1100 watt motor. And then the 16 gauge could also work on your other tools, your 9, your 8, and even the GR3, which those come with an 18 gauge cable. Okay, just want to throw that out there for you guys.
Okay.
For what it's worth.
Now,
So bigger pipeline of power going in there.
Right, exactly. Less restriction.
here's the new guy.
So this is the new guy. This is the very
Hey,
first.
Mike, go ahead and get the G9 and just move that out of the way.
Bring that over here.
Okay.
So brand new, very, very new, first ever rotary electric polisher from Griot's garage.
Nice
This is
polisher.
what we call our GR3, G for Griot's, R for rotary, 3 for 3-inch. And if you notice, it's very similar to the G8 as far as the body, footprint-wise, okay? Familiarity and feel and the ergonomics and the design of the tool. But it's gear-driven, rotary, 5/8 arbor, which is really cool. You know, it's industry standard design.
Industry standard, yeah.
Right, industry standard. So what's kind of cool about this is what I love is that we threw out some really cool features. I mean, we've got what comes with the tool is a 3-inch, a 2-inch, and a 1-inch backing plate, as well as a 3-inch and 2-inch extension. So right now, if you think about that, and of course a wrench, is I can use any of those pad sizes, backing plate sizes, to get me out of just about any tight crevice, any little area. And
Sure.
Yancy, I got to be honest with you, when we were here for the 3-day class, I saw you using that with both extensions.
I did. I
Right?
did. I was reaching into some places.
You were
so.
getting into some tight spots with that little 1-inch pad, and I saw a big smile on your face.
Yes, I did.
So,
I was like, I'm the second person in the United States that got to do it. The student, one of your students, Mike, beat me to be first.
I like to describe this as doing surgical buffing.
Exactly.
I mean, you put those extensions on with the 1-inch or 2-inch, you can get in like behind a rear view mirror, along the top of the window channel on the door. I mean, you can get anywhere.
yeah, you think about that versus this is back in the day. I mean, this is what you had. Great tool. It did what it had to do.
Back then, that was a great tool.
And it was a phenomenal tool. But you think about the evolution of tool design, options, pad sizes, things like that. I just wish I was back into the detailing market again today, because I would be in heaven with all this. I'm still in heaven because I get to use all this.
Yeah, you
but
get to play with it.
As a detailer, this would have been just awesome to have back then.
Hey, give your 2 weeks to start your Rod's
Oh.
mobile detail.
Not going to happen. I buff on enough cars as it is, and I'm very happy.
He's
So,
been through the trenches. It's time
Yep.
to move on to the.
And then it uses the same removable cord.
Yep, same detachable cord design, so one cord for all the tools.
Well, Rod, you and I both have a rotary background, because when we first started, that was one of the few tools that was actually out there. But for people out there that may not understand why you'd want to use rotary, let's explain when a rotary would be handy to have.
Actually, when you go through rotary, orbital, and long stroke, do all three of them instead of just the two.
Well, right. I mean, you got just about every combination here. So for me, the rotary would be great when I've got to do either a spot repair, and I want to do a little denibbing on a car that's just been painted, and I want to go around and just do some denibbing, and I want to just reduce my repair size, my repair area. And maybe I just got a little teeny spot sand that I just did instead of a big 6-inch DA sand mark. I've got a little spot sanding that I did on my denibbing. I can break out my 1-inch backing plate. Maybe it's in a tight spot that I can't get the tool because it's too close to the area. I can extend it, okay, if I wanted to, and I can kind of go away from that area, but yet the tool's not going to get impeded by the restricted spot or whatever.
Rotary basically gives you more power. It's a direct drive tool spinning in a single circle, and what he's talking about, denibbing. So a lot of times in a car paint, a custom paint job, a little piece of dirt falls in the paint.
Bugs?
Yeah, but well, hopefully not bugs in the paint booth, but a little piece of dirt. You would take and just kind of sand that out a little bit. Now you got to pull your sanding marks out. And a DA would do it, but a rotary will do it faster because it's a direct drive, single rotation tool. So there just are times when, in order to be efficient with your time and do the best work, a rotary is going to be the right tool for the job.
That's
and
true.
it's just another tool in your arsenal of Griot's choices.
Right. And in some cases, what I can do is let's say I have the GR3, that's my rotary. I'm going to do my rotary defect removal process. I'm going to take maybe my correcting cream or fast correcting cream, if that's my choice. And I can take either one of the microfiber pads. This is a brand new design that we just came out with, a new white. It's a new design, a little bit longer nap on our microfiber material. You notice these are white versus our black ones. And we also are launching a brand new knitted wool pad. These are really cool. Can't wait to actually play with these a little bit more. These are going to be great. This is going to be probably one of our most efficient, or I should say also most aggressive pads that we're going to bring out to the market. Okay. So let's say I chose one of these, or even
1 inch.
the 1 inch. Okay. Now I can get down and dirty into those little tight spots. And even if I have a hint of a swirl mark left over, because that's what a rotary tends to do, is leave a swirl, right, or a buffer hologram, as you call it, right?
Yeah.
Then now I can come back with maybe the G8
And remove that.
with a 2-inch backing plate and my pad of choice and my liquid of choice, or I can keep the liquid the same that I possibly used to remove the defect, and now I can come back with a G8 and just put a pad on here and polish out that little hint of a hologram, all right, and I'm done. The paint's going to look perfect.
Yeah, instead of working a big old area like 6 inches, or how big this 21 would make, you can work just a little small area.
I would much rather reduce my repair size.
This is what I mean when I say surgical buffing. You can do surgery on the car with something like this. And I notice you've got a lock button here.
Yep.
So if I want to tighten this down, there's a lock button here. You depress that, spin this, and just for rotary work, you just need to snug it up, and you're ready to go.
Right. It'll come with a wrench, but I have yet to use that wrench on there. I mean, the engagement on here is great. Think about this. You're actually rotating in the direction of the way that spins on there. So you're just
If anything, it's going to tighten
It's
up.
not going to back off on you.
Right.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Really cool. So awesome precision capabilities right here. This is a really neat setup right here.
And it's one of those things, when you need it, you need it.
You need it. That's
Yeah.
true.
Okay,
That's true.
Well, let's talk about all these different pads, and I see some different colors. You mentioned the different microfiber. The traditional Griot's Garage microfibers were black. There's nothing wrong with them, but you're changing things up.
Yeah, we changed it up a little bit. So we kind of wanted to say, okay, the black pads, microfibers are great. They've gotten us to a really good point where we are today. And we wanted to change that to a pad that can maybe reduce our micro marring, number one.
Yep.
Also, we've got a little bit longer nap on here, and it's more densely placed. So the other benefit is that these are not going to mat out as fast as the black pads maybe had in the past. Okay, so these are on their way. We're waiting on these to get into inventory as we speak. And our inner flex here in the middle, this red foam, has a better rebound. And what's nice about that is it helps to contour over some of those body lines and panels that you might come across.
Sure, yeah. Makes
Right.
it smoother buffing, better engagement with the pad and the surface of the paint.
Right, and of course, the nice benefit of that as well is you have good energy transfer because of that foam. It allows it to transfer that energy from the machine to the pad, to the surface of the paint that you're working on.
Yeah. And Rod, I always, whenever I'm doing video work, I like to pretend maybe there's someone out there that maybe has never seen something we're talking about. So this is the previous. These are just some examples of what the black ones look like.
Hold it up something other than your black shirt.
Yeah, yeah.
It kind of blended right in.
So you think about this, first generation of microfiber, okay? Still great material.
They work great.
Yeah, they work
One
great.
of the best microfiber pads on the market.
Right. And so what's kind of nice is that you can see the evolution in sense, I mean, obviously not just from the black to the white, but just the interflex design of the foam here, the nap, the material that we're physically using here is going to actually work better, last longer, clean easier as well.
And also the visual aspect of being able to just see product on the paint, on the pad, or maybe if you're working on a tinted clear coat or a single stage, you can see the product, the paint buildup or the product buildup on the pad, giving you an indicator, hey, it's time to switch out to another pad and save these for washing.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yep. So we've got our new microfibers that we're launching as well, and then we've got our new knitted wool here. We talked briefly about that. That's going to have the same Interflex foam
Okay.
in the backing material here, I should say the foam itself. And so I'm super stoked about this because...
Another size too.
Yeah,
Here,
we've
hold
got-
all of them.
They come in all of them.
Oh, and we've got, just for, if you haven't really noticed that, we've got everything down to 1 inch.
Wow.
From 6.5, 5.5, 3, 2, and of course 1. So you've got just an insane amount of combinations here. And if you pair this pad, microfiber, or any of the foams that we offer with the 4 creams, the Boss creams that we have,
Which are all great.
you've got hundreds of combinations.
Hundreds of combinations. You know, because I do a lot of work in social media interactions, answering questions, writing articles. One of the things I can remember is, you know, you go back, and you can do this too. You go back 20, 30 years in this industry, and people complain because there's too few choices. Now they complain because there's too many choices. Oh, which one do you want?
Right.
So let's go with one. But I tell you, if it's me, I'd rather have too many choices and have to do some research and try to figure out which thing I need than only have like, remember when there's only like 3 different colors of, what is one color of foam pad? There was
At
one
least.
foam pad,
Right.
1 or 2 kinds of wool pads, and that was it.
That's all you had.
That's all you
And you
had.
had to make it work.
Yeah, you had to make it work. So now you've got plenty of choices. You can mix and match the products to the pad to the paint.
I have no doubt in my mind, you know, I'm so happy to work for a company like Griot's because I have no doubt in my mind that you've got just about any combination to get you out of any situation, right? That I don't care what the problem is with the car, as long as it's got paint that's in stable condition, you've got the ability to correct that paint, make it look flawless, and have a system that works, you know.
And
just
these sizes
really well.
are available in all the different fiber pads you make
Yep.
and all the different foam pads
That's
you make.
correct. That's exactly
Man,
right.
that's a lot of choices.
You've got a lot of options.
And that's a huge undertaking for a company to actually ramp up, to carry this in inventory and put it out there. And the only way they would do this is if they had the confidence that these products are going to perform as advertised. So we've talked about the tools, talked about the pads. Let's talk about the creams.
Well, so, you know, Mike, since I started with Griot's, all 4 of these creams have been in our kind of lineup as far as a compound or a polish or a Boss cream, we call it. So they're kind of timeless, and I really don't see any need to change or fix these because there's nothing broken in these. I was just somewhere not too long ago, maybe a week ago, and I went into a facility that had freshly painted vehicle, black, of course, which is what I love to demo on. And their biggest challenge was swirl marks, dusting. They had all kinds of challenges with their process that they were currently using. And they were doing at least a 3 to 4 step buffing process with a rotary. It was such a breath of fresh air to go in, grab 1 machine, 1 pad. My choice to start with was our correcting cream. And we were going after, which was great, 5,000 grit sand scratches,
Wow.
sand marks
Yeah.
on there. So, you know, it's a little bit of a sheen, and that
Yeah.
should be a really effortless thing to buff out.
Should be, yeah.
I made 6 complete passes, and it looked like a sheet of glass. It
Yeah.
looked like it was wax ready. They were so blown away with what that looked like. They said they would have still been compounding by the time I was done with my first step.
Yeah, so this is where I'm going to take the burden off of you. I'm not going to make you talk about these. I'm happy to talk about these. Everybody knows I talk about abrasive technology a lot. It's one of the most common topics I will talk about in any kind of arena. And the reason why is because when it comes to polishing paint, the most important factor is the abrasive technology. And the reason why is because the first thing that's going to touch the paint is the product. Then behind that is the pad, then the tool, then the guy. The person is the most removed part of the equation. The number one thing is the thing touching the paint. And when it comes to abrasive technology, really, it either works
Or it doesn't.
It doesn't, okay? You cannot buff something out with, inferior abrasive technology that leaves micromarring and go, well, we'll wax over and cover that up. That product just does not work. These things work so well. No dusting, infinity buffing cycle. You can buff as long as you want. It's never going to dry up on you. No micromarring. And one of the things about this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this just kind of blew my mind when Jeff shared this with me originally. They actually all use the same type of abrasive. The difference is in the concentration for each product.
Or we call it but product load.
Product
The
load.
amount of load of the material we put in there.
And so the fast correction cream obviously have the densest or the most product load. And then you get down to the finishing seal, it has has the least. But what that does is it's almost like foolproof. So you just cannot make a mistake with these products. And the other thing about this is, and this is even more important, you know, you talk about word of mouth advertising. When you put a product out there and every time you see somebody comment about this, they say, oh, I love those products. I'm buying some more of that stuff. You never see anything bad. They might not use it with the Griot's tool or Griot pads, but they love this stuff and it does work good.
It was one of those things, I think, you know, that to kind of summarize the concept of the Boss Creams is that if you could have 4 products along with all the pad combinations and then think about all the tool combinations and then just about every defect and imperfection that you're going to come across when it comes to, you know, paints and so
Water
forth.
spots, oxidation, swirls, scratches, sanding marks, scuffs,
Right. Yep.
you know, paint transfer.
Yep. And so you take the 4 different creams from fast correcting to perfecting down to the finishing sealant. The compound technology that's in each one of those, you wanted a product that's going to, number one, remove the defect. You don't want it to mar.
Nope.
You want it to wipe off.
Yep.
You want to have a good long buffing cycle.
Yep.
You want it to work in just about any kind of climate possible.
Zero dusting.
And that's exactly what these 4 products do.
And
That's
they wash
just
out of the
you
pads
know,
well.
a simple order, you know. I want it to work everywhere and do
Right.
everything.
Right.
And here's another thing, you know, usually when you're buffing in a car, you're going to do what's called a test spot. So you're going to take and you want to use the least aggressive product to get the job done, because that way you leave the most paint on the car. And so you can start out with something maybe non-aggressive. Heck, you can even start with the finishing seal and see if that'll fix it. But by the time you get to whatever your first product is that's going to remove the defects to your satisfaction, you can come back and completely perfect it and seal it with this product because there's a built-in sealant.
It's a polymer, right? There's
So
a
it's
polymer
like
built into that.
Like it's an AIO almost, and you
Right.
could use it as a standalone product in some cases.
You know, truth be told, I mean, the finishing sealant is one of my personal favorites. I mean, these are all great products, don't get me wrong, but our fast correcting foam pad, this right here, in any size or whatever, paired with this, you'd be surprised what this can do. I mean, I don't want to say this and have everybody go out and try it, but I've taken out 3,000 grit sand marks. It does have a lot to do with the type of clear, the finish that you're working on, things like, there's a lot of dynamics right there and variables, but this is a kind of a secret weapon in a lot of cases. I love this product.
It's not secret anymore now.
Not to take away from the other 3,
No.
but you think about what these 4 can do along with all the different pads that you have to choose from. You've got so many options. I don't think you're ever going to run into a problem that you can't get out of.
Yeah, and where this ties in is something that I talk about a lot. It's called production detailing. So, you know, there are some cars, for example, this 73 Z28. Someone brings you a car like this and it's swirled out, it's hacked up, it's hammered. You're going to want to do show car detailing. Obviously, it's the kind of car you'd see at a car show, so it's a show car. But someone brings you a daily driver and they don't want to pay you to do 3 steps or 4 steps. They just want clear glass, black tires, clean interior, and shiny paint. This is where the finishing sealant comes in. Pair it with maybe the orange or the yellow pad and go around at one time. The car's going to look amazing. It's you corrected it and sealed it in one step, and that's the concept behind production detailing, is getting great results, but not investing 20 hours into a paint job because it's not a show car. It's a daily driver. Thus, daily drivers.
And you know what's kind of cool, Mike, is you talk about production. One thing we want to do is when we're done buffing that car is we want it to look good, right? We don't want it to look good just for 2 days. We want it to look good for a long period of time until it gets into a neglected state. Somebody, you know, used the wrong wash mitt or whatever.
Nothing lasts forever, not even you and me.
That's true. I know. I've got my days are counted, or numbered, I should say. But what I want to emphasize is that these 3 products in particular are all water-based.
Yep.
Okay. So, and they're body shop safe. And so, what's kind of cool about that is, what does that mean? That means that I can use these on fresh paint. I can use them in a body shop environment. I don't have to worry about contamination, things like that. But more importantly, when I'm done using these products, when I wipe it off, what I see is what I get. I'm not filling. I'm not hiding. I get a true understanding of what's going on with that paint. In other words, if it looks good and it's ready to have a coat of wax or a coating or some sort of a protectant put on there, I can be reassured that when I put that on there, it's not going to die back, or I'm going to have swirls or holograms come back later.
Something's going to come back to haunt you.
Right. So even if I'm using the finishing sealant, what I will do, if I want to be sure that, because it does have a polymer in there, it does correct. So I have the ability to remove and not just hide. So I will still sometimes, when I'm maybe using a product like that, I want to be reassured that when I'm done, it looks just as good no matter what. I will just take some IPA or whatever, just wipe it off real quick, just to make sure it looks really good. And I'm confident that it's going to look that way. I'll just go back and do the rest of the car.
Yeah, but overall, these are some really nice abrasive technology. You guys really knocked it out of the park.
Very impressed.
Yep.
Thanks,
So
Mike.
you have a complete system here: tools, pads, products. All you need is someone to stand behind them and do the work.
That's true. That's true.
That's where you come in.
But you know what? One of the things about the car detailing world is and I was actually engaged with someone this morning talking about detailing large trucks, you know, big 4-door Fords and Chevys. And, you know, that's just work to me. Working on stuff that's cool that you always see Richard, you know, or Nick working on. That's where, like you guys have your saying, have fun in your garage.
Oh, that's a huge motto for us.
Yeah, and it's only fun if everything you have is high quality and actually doing what you expect, doing what you hope and dream about. And that's taking something that I always like to say, taking a diamond in the rough and turning it into a glistening gemstone. And with griots, to say the word correctly, you can do that. So, the other good news is you can get all this stuff at Autogeek.com.
That's true.
Then
That's true.
if they want to reach out and touch you, you guys are all over social media and everything like that.
Yeah.
The Griot's Garage.
Griot's Garage.
On Facebook, on
Instagram,
YouTube.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. And if you haven't seen some of their videos that they've been doing, they have some really awesome videos. I really like the one with Nick spinning the polisher around on top of his head. Tribute to that.
That's true.
But
strong recommendation. If you're ever in the Tacoma, Washington area, visit their shop. They have the best retail location I've ever seen. You guys designed that so when you walk in, everything that you sell that's in that catalog, it's like a candy store for car guys and car girls.
well, it even has the eye candy of the cars in there, too.
You nailed it.
You can go in, you can look at the things, you can grab them, touch them, and even better, you can grab one of the sales staff and go right next to the bay next door and play with it.
Yeah, we're big on that. We make it, we teach it, we sell it. That's a big thing for us. You can come in there, just pick anybody's brain. We would be more than happy to help you out.
It's great. It's
That's called customer service.
It's really the best. Everybody should, of all of your competitors would be smart to go there incognito and take a look at it and then copy it. It is so well designed.
Yeah.
don't do that, other
Hint.
competitors.
Yeah.
All right, well, Rod, thank you very much for stopping in and, you know, being part of our new product showcase. And, you know, I do miss SEMA, but I'll tell you this, my feet and my legs are enjoying it. I haven't put on miles after miles, so, but...
well, that's because you weren't on our carpet in our booth all the time.
well, you know, I'm out there, you know, running the streets.
I know,
Hey.
you guys are working. You work hard.
And if you ever get a lot of you guys I talk to that you know what SEMA is, but you haven't been. If and when you get to SEMA, do go by the Griot's booth.
They do have a really cool
Meet the people behind the tools and check out that bounce carpet.
All right, Rod, thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Everybody out there, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. What do we say, Mike?
Same channel, same time. Just thanks for watching. We love doing these videos and helping you to make whatever it is you're working on look perfect.
And have fun in your garage.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, bye.
Take care.